Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pencil It In, a sports business interview series focused on the past, present, and future of the industry. My name is Jake Pincel, your host and an alumni of the University of Michigan Sport Management Program. From marketing professionals to athlete entrepreneurs and front office executives, my goal is to have informed conversations diving into various aspects of the growing business of sports. We love and appreciate your feedback, and you can find me on Pencil It In Sports on Instagram with a Twitter profile to be announced soon. Well, let's dive in with our first guest. As everyone knows, sports seem to be full steam ahead, and we're lucky to have someone joining us who surely has been living the day-to-day of that comeback. Our first guest is a fellow University of Michigan alumni and Executive Vice President of Operations and Chief of Staff of the Detroit Pistons, Josh Bartelstein. Josh graduated as a four-year basketball player from the Wolverines and was a part of the 2012-2013 team that made a run at the championship, grabbing second place in the 2013 Final Four at Atlanta. From being a college athlete to now working in an NBA front office, he has an abundance of experience in basketball, both on and off the court. We'd like to welcome him, and I asked Josh, how are you?
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate the very nice introduction and honored to be on episode 1 here. So I'm excited to get started.
Really appreciate you, and we hope the viewers know that they're in for a treat. So first, I want to just talk a little bit about the road back to play for the NBA. Obviously, this has been a crazy environment for all the fans, players involved, and I'm sure the league had a ton to do with it. So from both like a business and basketball angle, there has to be many considerations. And although your team unfortunately didn't make it down to Orlando, what does the day-to-day look like pre-pandemic in your role, and now given the current reality that we've been living in, which amounts to about half a year now, which is pretty insane. But
yeah,
the league
hard
shut
to
down on
believe.
March 11th, so it's been a while.
Hard to believe it. It's been 6 months, and I remember our team was in Philadelphia the night where it all ended. We were playing the Sixers. Obviously, the Jazz were playing OKC, and that event is what shut down the NBA, and that was the first domino, shut down everything else. Look, there's been lots of questions and so few answers. I think the NBA has done an incredible job of creating a bubble environment in Orlando. The first couple months were kind of a wait and see approach to see what would the curve be of this virus. Is it going to be a 2-week thing, a 3-week thing? Because that was the hope at first. Then all of a sudden you realize, this is not going away anytime soon. And the NBA pivoted and did an incredible job of creating a bubble environment. And for the league, it was critical to finish out this season. Football hadn't started, baseball hadn't started. The NBA, we had 16 regular season games left in the playoffs. So we were lucky in one sense that the core of our season was done, but so much of the revenue comes from the playoffs. So the focus was on how do you get that done. And I think picking Disney World and the protocols they've put in place has been a massive success. It's a best practice that you've seen so many leagues and teams replicate, and now you see baseball is going to implement a bubble for the playoffs because of how well the NBA did. From a Pistons perspective, we didn't go down to Orlando because it only took 22 teams. So ours was kind of figuring out the health and safety of all of our employees and players and coaches and staff, making sure they had a safe environment, implementing kind of work from home policies for everyone. So from players to lifting weights and running, to ticket sellers selling tickets, to administration, making sure we are managing our business across the board. So that's what most of it has been, a wait and see approach. Starting this week, the 8 teams who didn't go to Orlando now can create an in-market bubble where we can have our players come in town and do individual workouts and then do team practices and scrimmage next week, which is critically important because for 6 months, while those 22 teams have been active and playing, we haven't been able to work with our players. So it'll be a really a great 2 to 3 weeks where we can engage with them and work on some stuff for next year and kind of build that foundation.
Yeah, definitely. It's been great to see the NBA be like a thought leader when everything broke out, and they were really decisive in their decision, which I thought was very necessary. And now to see the MLS quickly follow, and the MLB, I think just today kind of announced officially that they're doing a bubble for the postseason. It really shows that the NBA led that charge. And from what I can tell, fans are really enjoying the game and the product that's back on the court in Orlando. So definitely some great points there. So kind of moving forward, like in all that time that everything was in flux, and I didn't mention this really in the introduction, I don't believe, but so you were a team captain when you were at Michigan. Either I know your senior year and maybe your junior as well, but sitting in that role and having to show leadership in times of crisis, although they may not be on the same level back in college, it could be a tough situation during a game or something happens off the court, whatever it may be. what are some of the things that you think you took with you from your time in college and that you learned in how to managing a group of guys that now has
Yeah.
been like very kind of vital to your role with the Pistons?
Yeah, I think it's all about building relationships, and every single person's different. The more authentic you can be, you really get to know the person. I just thought there's this, cliche, you don't have to be friends, we have to respect each other. I don't really believe that. You don't have to be best friends, but I think whether it's a team or if you're working with an executive team, it has to be more than just respect. There has to be a mutual understanding of how someone works and operates. And if you understand the person, you know what makes them tick, you know what gets them to go. And I think what we do here, whether it was me playing in Michigan or here, is really building those relationships so people know that I care about them on a personal level. If they know that, they're willing to listen to you and fight for you and do what you see fit. And I think if the pandemic, it was as much about getting as much information as you can. We have a really smart team of executives who all talked and thought about different strategy and things from employee safety to managing our business to our players. We had to think through every single piece of it. And then you have to be nimble enough to put a policy into place, right? And there's gonna be things you put in place right away that are great, things you have to iterate and tweak, and things you put in place that need to change right away because it doesn't work. Because this entire thing is unprecedented, so there's no playbook for it. And I think what you saw was, as a leader amongst many leaders, us being nimble, us being quick on our feet, being proactive, and then where there are issues where we need to make changes, we met and did that.
Yeah, definitely. So like investing in like the long-term relationships really, I'm sure, paid off in those times of crisis. And it's great to hear. And from my perspective, I mean, I feel like I've seen a new side of the athlete, a new side of the organizations. Like you see players kind of dancing on the bench, whether it be during a game or celebrating the locker room post big win, but to now see players off the court coming together, whether that be in COVID-19 relief or in the social justice initiatives, it's been really cool as a fan to see that side of players. And I'm wondering, just from my perspective, whether this can influence kind of relationships going forward. People now see a different side of each other, and whether that be for good or bad, I think it's great for the NBA and just for humans to kind of see players in a deeper level. What do you have to say about that?
I think the league and the players, the brand is so strong, right? And the brand is around its players. And I think you're seeing with social media and the demographic, whether it's Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials, the ability to connect with those people instantly on demand and get your message out, whether it's about social justice, whether it's about your team, whether it's about a playoff game. You're just seeing a connection and be able to really be a change agent that we've never been seen before. That's the power of the brand, it's the power of the players, and it's the power of social media that we have today.
Definitely. So to kind of pivot a little bit to just the Pistons as a whole, and a lot's been going on the past couple of years. You guys have gone through many changes, both on and off the court. I mean, the team moved from an iconic stadium, the Palace of Auburn Hills, where you definitely handed my team, the Bulls, tons of losses over the years, as long as terrorized the Eastern Conference. But now you're downtown in Little Caesars Arena. I know you had a major role in that development and transition, and I've seen it firsthand how beautiful the stadium is. But could you just talk a little bit about that new arena and kind of what went into that major process of moving from the suburbs to now the heart of Detroit?
Yeah, no, it's a massive transition. Many teams move within a city, right? So you've seen examples of teams opening stadiums but moving a block away, but a brand new stadium. For the Pistons, Auburn Hills, Detroit are two different demographics. It's two different cities. It's an hour drive away. So for us, it was tough to leave Auburn Hills because it's an iconic venue. There's such a tradition there of excellence and history. But for us, our ownership, Tom and Arnoff, they believed that the future was in Detroit. It was in the urban core. It was around the resurgence of Detroit, and Little Caesars Arena was a big part of that, with the placemaking and people gathering and all the events and what that would do. And the Detroit Pistons had to be a part of that revitalization. We had to play an integral role in it, whether it was through the community, through our basketball team, or through just having our team playing in Detroit. So it was a 3 or 4 year process, right? Because between building an arena and negotiating a lease, there's so many things that live on the margins that no one would even think about that goes into moving an entire operation. So the first step was the lease. Then we had to, renovate an arena because it was being built for hockey. So we had to kind of, in the middle of that, stop that process and say, hey, we got to build a basketball arena at the same time. While there's many similarities, there also are many differences that have to be worked out and are very nuanced. And it was a race to the finish with almost no time to spare. But it's been incredible for the organization from a brand standpoint, from a community standpoint, really making an impact, from a resource and facility standpoint. I think as much as tradition of the Palace, and everyone misses that and what the venue that was, it's been an incredible success being downtown.
Definitely. And I'm going to dive a little bit more into kind of the public standpoint in a little bit, because I think that's very interesting and a wave that we're really seeing kind of in sports becoming more open to the public and teams as well. But I'm just curious, like when you talk about new facilities, resources, things of that nature, sponsorship and sales opportunities brought by just having more signage in a kind of a more dense location and being in the city, like how did that kind of play into the role in development of the stadium? And then also like for recruiting talent, how does that work within NBA circles, at least for like having a leg up if you have nicer facilities, have more space for your trainers to do their job in the best way? Like what type of that goes into that?
Part of the analysis, right? Like pro forma, you got to look at the inflection in revenues and whether it's selling more tickets and sponsorship and signage. And again, there's absolutely an inflection point by moving to a new arena because all those things have a higher value and there's more demand and that drives revenue. And then you have to factor in that the expenses, right? Because when you move, there's absolutely a cost to that. But for most teams, obviously us, the pencil out to show was a no-brainer from that standpoint. From a talent standpoint, whether it's recruiting someone to sell tickets or someone in the draft or free agent, that's your home. It's where you go every single day. It's where you report to work. So if you have a state-of-the-art facility that shows the level of detail, and I believe it is the best in the NBA, whether you are a ticket seller that's just out of college or you are our best player, it shows your organization cares about you and wants to have a great experience and will give you every resource you can to have success. And then it's on you to take advantage of it. And I think what we've done between our new arena, our new practice facility, and building our G League arena, those three pillars illustrate that. Definitely.
And then you just mentioned briefly the new practice facility, the Henry Ford Performance Center. And I've been there myself. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's really unlike many other practice facilities in the game. Like the Bulls, for example, used to be at the Berto Center, which was hidden off in Deerfield, far away from the city. And really nobody even knew that it was a practice facility. And the goal of that was to not have people come by, not bother the players or whatever it may be. But given like the public nature of your facility and kind of the corporate social responsibility aspect of it, like how did that play in? And like, what are some of the elements you could talk about that the Detroiters have come to love already in just a few years?
Most of these facilities are fortresses, like the Berto Center in Deerfield, where it's just for the players and staff and not meant for anyone else. And it's very secretive and secure. Our vision was to create a catalyst for future development that brought people together. So our facility is for our players and business operations staff and probably houses, 300 people on a given day. It's also for the community, right? So whether it's using our courts for camps and clinics and philanthropic events, or we have event spaces for partners and philanthropic events. It's about placemaking. So on each side of it's a campus. So we have Plum Market, which is a boutique grocery store on one end. We are going to have a fitness tent on the other end. And again, the public, the main entrance is open. It has our trophies. It has pieces of art. You're basically 10 steps away from the court. So hopefully for us, when the pandemic's over and people can start going out again and being with people and not wearing a mask and not social distancing, this will become, a center for basketball, not just the new center where we're located, but all over Detroit, and really, be a beacon for future development in the area and bring people together.
For sure. And kind of on that point, like players being more public and teams as well, and just kind of moving back to the bubble, like we've seen friendships form, at least through a social media perspective, that people say, maybe joking around, that it could even impact free agency. And I'm not going to ask you to speak on that, but with the facility that you guys built, just keeping the players in mind and really putting the players and community first, kind of how does this help players like build their personal brands? Like, are there opportunities for them to use the facility for a charitable event if they have a local Detroit charity? Does that just like give more flexibility in general to have something right downtown?
Sure. I think, when you have a facility at the scale and size we have it with the resources we have in it, it creates many, many options. So if players want to do philanthropic events or work with charities, absolutely, it's a great place for it. But I think with our facility, lends itself to is, great team building, being together, and understanding just the level of resources our ownership will give to be the best, and it starts there.
Definitely. And kind of just talking a little bit about like athletes, like monetization and branding. Like we'd always seen like humor and personalities on the court, like I had mentioned before. But how do you think like the bubble and kind of maybe athletes like finding themselves as content creators? I mean, I'm sure you saw like JaVale McGee or Matisse Thybulle, who's now like a household name, and he was just a rookie, and people feel like they know him better than they know Zion, for example. But how do you think that's kind of opening up like new doors for athletes? And do you see that as like a trend moving forward?
Yeah, I think, so many of these athletes are so creative, right? I think for so many years they've been put in a box as just athletes, but you're seeing just how talented they are outside of basketball. So whether it's Matisse with what he was doing in the bubble with creating content and showing bubble life to, TikTok, Instagram. Again, there's so many different type platforms now, and there's such a need for engagement, right? More and more people are cutting the cord and just going off their mobile device and using that to kind of view all their experiences, and whether it's one screen or two screens. So, players, the content they have themselves are a brand, and if they can find creative ways to curate that content and then share it, there's clearly an appetite for it. And you see that with the viewership, whether it's Matisse Thybulle or JaVale McGee, guys that were probably lesser names to start, and they've taken off because they give you inside access and exclusive looks, and people crave that.
Definitely. And that's something I've really noticed starting even on the high school level, like going to Michigan, being around Imani Bates, for example, is like a high recruit, and you follow these guys and they have more followers nowadays than many NBA All-Stars. Like Carlos Boozer is one of my favorite players. He has less followers than Bronny James. It's not even close. But kind of speaking on that, and then the transition into college, I'm curious, like in your time at Michigan, and I know this is changing with name, image, and likeness rights changing in general, and schools are actually recruiting on the idea of helping athletes build their brands, college athletes who are amateurs right now. But was there like a focus on kind of brand building while in college, like money management, things of that nature at like a major program like Michigan?
Probably much more now. I think when I was there, which is hard to believe, 8 years ago, it was just taking off, right? Players were just starting to realize how empowered they were and their brands and how they had leverage. I think now, like, classes and being able to teach them whether it's brand management and how they are a brand, and how you only have your name, and that name it can be really good or really bad depending on how you carry yourself, to financial classes and managing your money. I think you see it with what's happening in Big Ten football, right? And you see these football players that realized they had power and leverage and worked with their coaches, and a league that 2 weeks ago said we're not playing is now reevaluating it. That probably doesn't happen if the players out on in front of it pushing it and have hundreds of thousands of likes on Twitter and Instagram. So I think they're seeing it more and more. You see it in the pros, you see it in college, you see it in high school. And again, it all goes to how people are following content, and by using your smartphone, you can curate content that gets hundreds of thousands of likes, and that creates momentum and creates a wave of momentum to get things done.
Yeah, agreed. And it really is interesting. I mean, I can only imagine like being a Michigan fan for a long time now. Back when you guys were on the courts with like Tim Hardaway and Trey Burke, I mean, these guys were probably rock stars around campus, but the profile would have only exploded even more given kind of the social media landscape of today. I mean, what was
100%.
it like kind of like being around a team like that and having so much hype? Like, did it sometimes feel like a business, or was it hard to draw the line between a college team and a huge like level kind of program when you're going down to Atlanta and playing in a 70,000 person stadium? And what was that like?
No, I think it is a business, right? It's a job. It's the hours you put into it, how much you care about it, how you treat it like a job. But I think, as big as superstars those guys were, it would likely be even bigger today, just because of how much has changed in the last 7-10 years. Again, I think I got a Twitter account when I was in college. I got an Instagram account when I was in college. They were just blowing up to the point where it's nowhere where it was today, but you could see how influential those would be in the sports world and the entertainment space. Playing in the Final Four, it's a dream come true, right? Because you live the life of a rock star on a platform that there's no higher level than go playing in an NFL stadium as a college basketball player and running out with the lights going off and smoke in the air. So it's an incredible experience. It's a dream come true, one you never forget. And again, I think would only be heightened today just based on where we're at with the world and again, social media.
Definitely. And so like I've seen, there's a company called Open Doors, for example, that's partnering with colleges, and it's actually becoming a recruiting tactic on that level to get players to go to college. But when you're talking about a pro organization and just like opportunities off the court, whether that be in a city or with the facilities like we kind of spoke about before, is that something that players kind of consider, like not obviously to the level of on the court play and the roster and coaches, but what type of kind of effort do players to put into knowing that they're going to a supportive team and organization?
I think, the most important piece is the school and your coach and the culture and what gives you the best chance to have success. I think the kids that focus on off the courts, unless you're the elite of the elite, 99% of kids market what's going to make you successful is on the court and in school, and that transferring that and translating that into a job post college, whether that's playing in the NBA for a very select few or finding a job out of college. I think the kids who are focused on marketing and branding going into school is not the right way to go about it, because the dollars are finite in the scheme of things. And if that's what your priority is, then you're not thinking about it the right way and your priorities are out of line. So my hope is kids will focus on where can I get the best education? Where can I have the best relationship with my coach? Where can I see myself with that sport I was playing? Didn't work out. If I didn't like it, would I still like being here? And if we check all those boxes and you like your teammates and like the people you're around, then for sure the brand building, the profile, if those all things amplify what you have, then terrific. But it should be down on a long list of things you evaluate.
Definitely. And I hope that mindset that you kind of just explained is maintained moving forward in college sports, because it is definitely crucial to the game that many of us love. And it's awesome seeing players still be kids around campus because they are, just like I am. And, we're young people, I guess. But so I just want to shift real quick before kind of capping off the interview. And I'm really curious about esports. It's a growing field. I know you guys have an investment into a gaming team, a 2K team that is, but what type of kind of element does that play within the overall organization? These guys are around the facility, but in the long-term thoughts in kind of the fans you could bring in, how do you guys think about it?
Yeah, no, NBA 2K it's a real league, right? It's real players who are playing as avatars. Most, if not all, of the NBA has a team now, and we treat them like real players. They have their own gaming agreement. They play. Esports has, exponentially grown. I think it was a foreign concept to many 5 or 10 years ago that people would literally sit in front of their TV and watch, people play video games. But between selling out, Madison Square Garden and real arenas to the viewership on Twitch, the viewership on linear TV, it's shown that it matches, if not exceeds, some true professional sports games that we would call.
Definitely.
And with that draws eyeballs, and advertisers and partners and sponsors want to find ways to get in front of people. And that demographic is an engaging demographic. When you look at a lot of young people who have some discretionary income to spend and are growing up, and they want to get their brands in front of them. So I think the NBA is still figuring out how it fits within the profile of an NBA team. But esports is here. It's here to stay, and it's a dominant player. And it's crazy how far it's come in a short time. And I think it's only going to kind of keep raising the ceiling.
For sure. And yeah, I think it's really cool you mentioned kind of the different types of partnerships and sponsorships that can come out of that, because not every brand is looking for an avid basketball fan. Some may be looking for someone that's kind of more loosely involved with the game, but a big gamer. And I know you guys have been very innovative in your sponsorship in general. And I thought it was awesome to see what you guys did with the Pistons IPO program that was recently rolled out, kind of thanking fans and telling them, like, if they invest with us, we'll invest back with you. Like, we're caring for our fans. is that just one thing in like a long line of kind of giving back to the community that is kind of the long-term idea that the Pistons are moving
Yeah, I
forward with?
think like the Pistons are a community asset. That's what our owner always says, right? We're stewards of the franchise, and it's bigger than playing basketball. And the most important thing is moving the community forward, now more than ever, where it is divisive and polarizing out there. So whether it's helping people get registered to vote or registered for the census, helping people get season tickets and find returns on the investment they make, to community programming, to creating good, honest dialogue. We want to bring people together and use basketball as a vehicle to do that, because basketball sport, it evokes emotion, and that emotion brings people together to have real conversations, and to hopefully be unified. And if anything else, I think that's what we try to do, and I think our team does a really, really good job of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I saw you guys use the practice facility as a voting place for the primaries, and I know that's been kind of a major push throughout the league. So it's been great to see the NBA taking the lead there, as always.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to finish off with a couple of questions here. One would be, getting to like the late stage of this, I mean, it'd be phenomenal if you could provide some advice to some of the viewers we may have, people who are interested in sports business or just in general and following their dreams. So in an industry that's ultra competitive, like, where can you potentially win out?
Yeah, I think that for me, it comes down to two things. One, you got to work really, really hard. It's a small, and we use the word bubble not because of the NBA, but it's a small circle. It's a small bubble of people that are in. So it's hard. And I think the two things you got to distinguish yourself with are working really, really hard. You're going to get 99 no's, but all you need is one yes to get your foot in the door and take advantage of it. And then you got to be a good person. I think people that are good people, that are have empathy, have appreciation, understand how they have to grow when they're in trust, good things come to them. So I think, in the sports world, it's a lot about networking and relationships and going out there and meeting people and doing it in an authentic way. And then once you get in, you got to be the first one there and last one to leave and work really, really hard. And while doing that, be really good people. And I think if you do that, the people that are around you, whether it's your boss, whether it's a mentor, whether it's someone you work with, is going to want to help you succeed. And you just got to kind of go on that incremental climb and ride the wave. And I think those of you that have a lot of success.
Definitely. And yeah, just being around a couple of organizations within sports myself, I mean, it is always surprising, but I mean, you would expect it. But then when you get there, like, there are really good people in the industry. And although it's hard to elevate within it, I think people really do respect kind of hard work, effort, and just being personable and really fitting into that culture. So that's something I've noticed in my short time. Couple quick hitting questions before we're done. Cubs or Sox fan?
Big Sox fan. Very big
Sox fan.
So
I'm sure you can't do NBA. It's hard. You got to, I mean, Pistons, obviously, but Sox, all right?
I'm very happy right now. Our first best team in the American League. So, yes.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I mean, hopefully we meet in the World Series. That'd be amazing. I'm a Cubs fan, for the people's information. And then LeBron or MJ? Is that something?
Well, I'm born in Chicago. It's hard to go against MJ because when I was young, that was the LeBron's the king, but MJ was the original king. So I'll have to go off my Chicago roots. I'll go MJ.
Got to respect greatness. And then last one, we got a Game 7 tonight. We got the Nuggets and the Clippers. Who do you have?
Can't make picks on NBA games, but I hope
on NBA games.
It's a great game.
All right. Well, I'll put my pick out for the people. I got the Clippers. All right. Thank you so much, Josh, for joining us. Hope everyone enjoyed it. It's been a great talk, very informative. And as always, thank you so much for spending your time.
Thanks so much, Jacob. All the best, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Really appreciate it.